Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching and listening to Historian Radio's Echoes of the News, and I am Muhammad Hussain Qazi, and these are today's headlines as history first heard them. On this day, the 11th of October, Peter the Great became the Tsar of Russia, putting his family, the Romanov family, on the path of imperial power. Peter the Great is regarded as one of the founding leaders of contemporary Russia, and the rule of the Romanov family would come to an end in 1917 with the Russian Revolution. First, the imperial government would be replaced by the government of Kerensky, known as the Provisional Government, which would then be replaced by the government of the Bolsheviks, forming the Soviet Union out of the ashes of imperial Russia. Continuing on this date, in 1899, the Anglo-Boer War began. The Anglo-Boer War was one of the most significant conflicts in the history of colonial conflicts in Africa. The Anglo-Boer War would shape the era that is now known as the Scramble for Africa. And on this very day, the 11th of October, 1976, Jiang Qing, Mao Zedong's widow, and the Gang of Four were arrested. They were deemed as threatening to undermine the control and policies of the Communist Party of China, or the Communist Party of the People's Republic of China, as it is known by its official name. It was considered thus because these individuals were believed to thwart the process of the Communist Party distancing itself from the cult of personality formed by Chairman Mao Zedong, and of course the horrors of the Cultural Revolution and the Great Leap Forward. Continuing on this date, in 1980, Soviet cosmonauts in the Salyut 6 returned to Earth after a record-breaking 185 days in outer space. Their return in the Salyut 6, well, their safe return in the Salyut 6 is not just an important moment in scientific history, but in the history of the world and in the history of the space race. Now we move on to the next segment of our show, where we recount the famous births and deaths of historical figures from around the world of the earlier 19th and 20th centuries, and sometimes earlier. Born on this day in 1844 was Henry John Heinz, founder of the Heinz condiment factory, and he is remembered today for his iconic Heinz ketchup and Heinz mustard for those who prefer mustard over ketchup. And on this day in 1884, Eleanor Roosevelt was born. Eleanor Roosevelt was a known activist and a known individual throughout human history. She was one of the founding individuals behind the Charter of the United Nations and the United Nations subsequently as a whole. Eleanor Roosevelt is thus remembered as one of the most iconic women of the 20th century. And unfortunately, on this date in 1961, Leonard Chico Marx of the comedic Marx Brothers, or the comedy troupe known as the Marx Brothers, passed away. And following him in 1963, Jean Cocteau, French poet, would also pass away. And on that unfortunate note, we conclude today's headlines. You are watching and listening to Historian Radio's Echoes of the News, and I am Muhammad Hussain Qazi, and these are today's headlines as history first heard them. Good night.